Hello and welcome to another video. Now, today, as the next installment of my cold summer soup series, we're going to make gazpacho. In particular, gazpacho of the variety that is typically eaten in Andalusia. Now, gazpacho is a very long-standing dish with a very colorful history. The Romans, when they invaded Spain, or Iberia as it was called then, was basically they had a soup that was cold soup with bread, vinegar, perhaps some other things added. Over time, cucumbers were added. Finally, after the discovery of the New World, green peppers and tomatoes were finally added. So, long-standing dish. Gazpacho is normally eaten as an appetizer, but I'm going to show you how to turn this tasty appetizer into a full light meal. We will do this by being creative with the garnishes and the other mix-ins that are typically eaten with gazpacho. So, onto the ingredients. I'll cover the main ingredients first and then the extensions on top of it after. So, for the main components, we have a handful of somewhat stale bread. Now, I couldn't get a nice Spanish bread for this, so I'm using ciabatta. I have a smallish clove of garlic. I have a bit of cucumber here. It's about 3.5 inches off the side. I have 3 tomatoes, and I'm going to put in half of this mild green chili. Most of the time people use like green well, I wouldn't say bell peppers, but green sweet peppers. But I like the little bit of added spiciness here. To this we will add a little bit of white wine vinegar. Traditionally they would use sherry vinegar these days, but I couldn't get any at the grocery store. And a little bit of extra virgin olive oil. So on top of that there will be a little bit of extra water. Of course it's a soup, and a bit of salt. Those are kind of typical. So onto the garnishes and what we're going to do to fill this out into a sort of whiter soup. These are inspired by other aspects of Spanish cuisine, and I think they go very nicely together. So for the extra garnishes, I will add a little bit of extra olive oil on the top. I'm going to add an egg. I took this idea from sopa de ajo. You might see my sopa de ajo video. It has some descriptions of that. Typically people will add some small, finely cubed cucumber. And I thought, you know, being Spanish food, a garnish with a piece of serrano ham would be nice. But once you add the egg and the ham, you have enough protein. The egg could be served on the side, but in this case, I'm going to use it for a garnish. Now, I'm going to use this hand blender set here. You can use a blender, you could use a food processor, whatever you'd like. I've put the bread and the garlic in here, and we're just going to pulse it a bit, and this is going to be Now that this is in smaller bits, I'm going to do my next bit, which is that I will start adding the veggies. And I'm going to drizzle some olive oil in at this point. And just a, you know, bit of a bit. And then I will add the veggies. So now I'm going to add the veggies. I've quartered the tomatoes just so that they are, you know, smallish. And I have some cucumbers, but the whole 3 tomatoes will go in. And if there's not enough space, we'll grind it for a little bit and then come back. So I think I'm going to have to add the pepper and a little bit of the tomato and cucumber after the next run. Okay, so I've run this a little bit. And now we're going to add the rest of the veggies, and we'll grind it down into a puree, add some salt and water, and we'll be done. And some vinegar. I guess I should add the vinegar now. So Doesn't need to be a huge amount, but enough to give it a little bit of sourness. Okay, so now back with the top on. I'm going to grind this into a puree. I'm going to grind this into a puree. And now we have the beginnings of the soup here. I'm going to grind it a little more, and then I'll be back. So now I have salt to taste. I'm going to add a bit of water to make it a little bit more liquid. And this is kind of depending upon the consistency you want it. And mix that all. And that's looking pretty good. So now we'll go ahead and present it, do the garnish and everything, and then we'll do a taste test. So the first thing I'm going to do, and of course if I was doing a vegetarian version, is I wouldn't do this, but I'm going to go ahead and just lay the serrano ham out in the middle like this. And then I'm going to put pieces of the egg decorated as a garnish on the sides of the ham. Or maybe even on top. And then I can sprinkle a little bit of cucumber along the outside. And now we have our basic, I'm going to drizzle a nice little circle of olive oil. And if the gazpacho consistency is right, then the olive oil is going to just kind of sit inside the in the broth on top of it. If it like sits on top and doesn't sink in, then it's probably not liquid enough. So here we are. Next for the taste test. And now for the taste test. This is refreshing and delicious. And with these little cubes of cucumber in it, it just really hits the spot. The eggs go surprisingly nicely in it, although they're definitely not traditional. It's a bit of a garnish or something to serve on the side. They can make the difference between treating this solely as an appetizer and treating it as a light meal. So anyway, this is delicious. I really enjoy it. I hope you do too. Bon appetit, and see you next week.